What if the greatest betrayal in WWE history didn't come from a rival, an outsider, or a new faction, but from within the heart of the family itself? In a stunning, unscripted interview that sent shockwaves through the wrestling world, Paul Heyman, Roman Reigns' once devoted Wiseman, broke his silence. And what he revealed was nothing short of explosive. According to Heyman, the man known as the Tribal Chief, the head of the table, had been orchestrating a long, deceptive game behind the backs of the very bloodline he claimed to lead. A game of power, of manipulation, of control. And if Heyman's words are true, then Roman Reigns was never the victim, he was always the architect. Heyman didn't come to the table with subtle barbs or vague insinuations. He came with fire in his voice and betrayal in his eyes. For years, Paul Heyman stood by Roman's side through war after war. He guided the bloodline through faction feuds, interbrand battles, and internal fractures. He was there when Roman returned with newfound dominance in 2020. He was there through every title defense, every power grab, every family reunion turned civil war. But according to Heyman, it was all a facade. The interviews, the backstage meetings, the moments of unity, Heyman now claims it was an illusion Roman himself carefully constructed. He didn't want a family, Heyman said, his voice low but sharp like a blade. He wanted an empire. And we were just pawns in his game. WWE fans have long speculated about tension within the bloodline, especially in the months following Reigns' mysterious disappearance after WrestleMania. Questions swirled: was Roman injured? Was he taking time off? Or was there something darker happening behind the curtain? Paul Heyman's interview suggests it was the latter. With an expression that danced between fury and sorrow, Heyman outlined what he called Roman's secret playbook, a psychological blueprint designed to keep every member of the bloodline off balance, in line, and utterly dependent on him. According to Heyman, Roman pitted cousins against each other, Jay against Jimmy, Jimmy against Solo, Solo against Sammy, while positioning himself as the sole voice of reason. He withheld information, spread rumors, and used loyalty as both weapon and currency. Wrestlers who believed they were standing beside a leader were, in fact, standing on a trapdoor. One of the most damning moments in the interview came when Heyman alleged that Roman faked his own vulnerability to manipulate the WWE universe and the locker room. He played the part of the tired king, Heyman said. He pretended to need rest. To need us. But it was never about rest, it was about resetting the board. And we didn't even see the move. Heyman's eyes narrowed as he recounted a moment weeks before WrestleMania 41. A private meeting between himself and Roman, behind closed doors in a New York hotel suite. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Paul, if I fall, they'll all fall with me." That's when I knew. He wasn't just preparing to lose. He was preparing to burn everything if he did. That single line has since ignited a wildfire of speculation. Was Roman Reigns truly planning to destroy the bloodline from within? Was his reign not just about legacy, but about domination at any cost, even the cost of his own family? Heyman didn't stop there. He spoke about Solo Sikoa, how Roman groomed him, not as a successor, but as a failsafe. According to Heyman, Roman fed Solo with power and silence, teaching him to obey without question, only to isolate him when he began asking too many. Solo thought he was next in line, Heyman said. But Roman? Roman saw him as a tool. A hammer. And when a hammer gets too heavy, you put it down. The tension between Roman and Solo had been mounting ever since Jey Uso walked out on both men, tired of the blood-soaked cycle. Fans thought the cracks in the bloodline were caused by grief and confusion. But now, Heyman says it was deliberate. Engineered. And when Solo retaliated, when he seized control of the remaining faction and claimed the Tribal Chief title for himself, Roman, according to Heyman, didn't see betrayal. He saw checkmate. Roman Reigns wanted Solo to turn, Heyman whispered. Because now he gets to play the victim. The words hit like a superkick to the jaw. The Tribal Chief, WWE's most dominant champion in a decade, rebranding himself as a martyr? That idea would have been unthinkable just a year ago. But as Heyman laid out the story, piece by piece, a darker picture emerged. This wasn't just a downfall. It was a masterstroke. He knew the fans would turn on him, Heyman continued. He knew the locker room would stop fearing him. So he did the only thing he could do to stay in power: he made himself the tragedy. According to Heyman, Roman's absence from WWE programming wasn't about recovery, it was about resurrection. He needed time away to build a new persona. One that could rise not as a dictator, but as a fallen hero. And when he returns, and Heyman is adamant that he will return, it won't be with an apology or explanation. It will be with vengeance. He's watching everything, Heyman warned. Every match. Every promo. Every whisper about who the real tribal chief is now. And when he walks back through that curtain, it won't be as a brother. Or a cousin. Or a king. He's coming back as something else entirely. But perhaps the most shocking revelation came at the tail end of the interview. When asked why he was revealing all of this now, Heyman paused. The silence was heavy. Then, without blinking, he said, "Because I made a mistake. I thought I was guiding a dynasty. But I was feeding a tyrant." For years, fans watched Heyman stand by Roman's side, praising him, defending him, justifying his every brutal decision. Now, the Wiseman has become the whistleblower. And the truths he's unleashing are tearing apart the very legacy he helped build. Heyman detailed how Roman would isolate individual members of the Bloodline, keeping them from comparing stories or building trust with each other. He'd tell Jimmy one thing, Jay another. To Solo, he'd say, "Don't trust them, they envy you." And to me? He'd say, "Keep them together, Paul. Keep them hungry." Heyman described these tactics as classic psychological warfare, reminiscent of despots and political manipulators, not brothers and leaders. The segment stunned viewers not only for its content but for its emotion. This wasn't just a manager lashing out. This was a man visibly broken. Heyman's voice cracked when he spoke about his relationship with Jey Uso. The so-called right-hand man. Jey was the soul, Heyman said. And when he walked away, I knew something had changed. Not just in the Bloodline. In me. What followed was perhaps the rawest moment of the entire exposé. Heyman admitted that he, too, had been complicit. That he allowed the manipulation to continue. That he justified Roman's paranoia as strategy. "I told myself we were building something historic. But what we built, it wasn't a family. It was a cage. And that cage," he says, "was meant to trap not only the members of the Bloodline, but the entire WWE universe." Roman's goal, according to Heyman, wasn't just dominance over titles. It was narrative control. He didn't want to win matches, Heyman said. He wanted to win history. In recent months, questions have arisen about why Reigns has remained absent even as Solo, Jimmy, and others tear each other apart. Some believed it was injury. Others said burnout. But Heyman offers a third possibility: strategy. Roman watches from the shadows because he knows chaos makes him stronger. The longer they fight, the more the people beg for him to return. Not as a villain, but as a savior. It's a chilling notion. That Roman Reigns, the head of the table, would let his family fracture, his allies bleed, and his enemies rise, all for the sake of dramatic timing. And yet, with everything Heyman has revealed, one question lingers like smoke in the air: was this always the plan? Paul Heyman believes it was. From the day Roman returned at SummerSlam 2020, leaner, sharper, colder than ever, something had shifted. That wasn't a comeback, Heyman said. That was a coup. The days of family loyalty, of sitting around the table and claiming unity, they were never real, Heyman claims. They were rehearsals. Performances. A script designed by one man who didn't trust anyone enough to share the spotlight. And if that's true, then the Bloodline was never a family. It was a lie. But as Paul Heyman's revelations echoed across locker rooms, commentary tables, and social media timelines, the world couldn't help but ask, what now? What happens to a family built on deception, once the mask is ripped off? What becomes of loyalty when it's exposed as manipulation? And what does it mean when the man known as the Wiseman steps out of the shadows to become the architect of Roman Reigns' public reckoning? Backstage in WWE, the mood reportedly shifted in the hours following the interview. Wrestlers who had once stayed silent out of fear or politics were now whispering. Some in anger. Some in vindication. Some, like Jey Uso, allegedly nodded in quiet understanding. He had tried to tell the world. He had tried to break away. But no one wanted to listen, not until Paul Heyman, the most loyal of them all, finally shattered the silence. The fallout didn't just stop with whispers. According to insiders, Solo Sikoa, once believed to be Roman's hand-picked heir, held an emergency meeting with the remaining members of his Bloodline faction. The meeting was short, tense, and ended with Solo reportedly uttering 5 chilling words: "We end this at SummerSlam." The implication was clear. Roman's return wasn't just expected, it was inevitable. And when it happens, it will be war. But Paul Heyman didn't just unleash Roman's secrets. He also issued a warning. Do not mistake his silence for surrender, he said. Do not confuse his absence for weakness. Roman Reigns has been planning this longer than any of us can imagine. He's not hiding. He's waiting. And it's that waiting that has everyone, from superstars to production staff, on edge. Because if Roman Reigns truly engineered this chaos, if he truly stepped away to let his empire crumble only to rebuild it in his image, then his return won't be a reunion. It will be a reckoning. Heyman painted a grim image of what that return could look like. Roman walking through the curtain, not in full tribal garb, not with the bloodline by his side, but alone. Changed. Hardened. No longer seeking family, only obedience. He's not coming back to lead, Heyman said. He's coming back to conquer. And if that's the case, then the current factions, Solo's splintered bloodline, Jey's lone wolf crusade, Seth Rollins' anti-authority movement, may all be standing on borrowed time. Roman Reigns returning to WWE under this new narrative would mark a new chapter not just in storyline, but in power dynamics across the company. The WWE universe now finds itself divided. There are those who still chant for the tribal chief, who believe Heyman's betrayal is just another spin in a long-running saga. Then there are those who see Heyman as a fallen apostle turned truth-teller, bravely exposing a tyrant who had too long gone unchecked. But what neither side can deny is this: Paul Heyman knows Roman Reigns better than anyone. He was there for every contract signing, every strategy meeting, every manipulative pivot and backstage maneuver. And if he says Roman has been playing everyone all along, the world has to at least entertain the possibility. And Heyman wasn't finished. In the final moments of his sit-down, he delivered the kind of closing statement that didn't sound like a promo, it sounded like a eulogy. I gave him everything. My voice. My loyalty. My legacy. I built the modern bloodline beside him. I defended every lie, justified every sin, and swallowed every moment of doubt. But now, I see it clearly. Roman Reigns doesn't build legacies. He buries them. And I refuse to be next. That moment felt final. But in WWE, nothing ever truly is. Because with Heyman now seemingly aligned with Seth Rollins and the resistance growing louder by the week, the tribal war is far from over. In fact, it may only just be beginning. As SummerSlam looms and whispers of Roman's return grow louder, questions hang in the air like smoke after a fire. Will Roman Reigns walk back into WWE as a dethroned tyrant seeking redemption, or as a mastermind ready to reassert dominance by any means necessary? And what of Solo Sikoa? Will he stand tall as the new tribal chief, or will Roman return to remind him, and everyone watching, that there is only one true head of the table? The thought of Solo, standing in the ring, staring down his cousin, is already giving the WWE universe chills. Because if Heyman is right, then Roman didn't just anticipate that moment. He orchestrated it. This is what he wanted all along, Heyman whispered. He wanted to fall. So he could rise without debt, without ties, without mercy. The seeds of this confrontation were planted long ago. When Roman returned in 2020 with new teeth, new music, and new fury. When he manipulated Jimmy and Jey. When he sent Heyman to deliver ultimatums. When he destroyed Kevin Owens, Edge, Daniel Bryan, and even Brock Lesnar. This wasn't dominance by strength. It was control by design, and now? Now that control is slipping. The pieces are moving without his hand. And if there's one thing Roman Reigns cannot stand, it's unpredictability. Heyman warned that Roman's obsession with power had twisted his view of family. He no longer saw Jey as a brother, but as a threat. He saw Jimmy not as blood, but as leverage. Even Heyman, his most loyal mouthpiece, was eventually reduced to a dispensable pawn. That's why Heyman stepped away. Not for vengeance. For survival, but even as he turned whistleblower, he admitted one haunting truth: "I still fear him," Heyman said. Because Roman Reigns doesn't forget. And when he comes back, he won't forgive. That fear now hangs over WWE like a cloud. Because the calm before the storm is often the most dangerous moment of all. And if Roman Reigns has been silently watching, calculating every betrayal, every insult, every challenger, then what comes next may not just be a return. It may be an execution. This is no longer just a storyline. It's an unraveling. Of legacy. Of trust. Of the very meaning of bloodline. Roman Reigns once stood for family. Now, if Paul Heyman is to be believed, he stands for nothing but Roman Reigns, and when the curtain rises once again, we may all find out the cost of crossing the tribal chief. In the aftermath of Heyman's seismic interview, WWE didn't issue a formal statement. But they didn't need to. The entire company seemed to pivot around his words. Promos began referencing false kings, traitorous leaders, and deceptions from within. Even commentary teams on Raw and SmackDown started threading quiet but intentional hints, suggesting the company was preparing for something massive. Something apocalyptic. Backstage morale, especially among the Samoan faction and their allies, has reportedly fractured. Some superstars who were once eager to align with Roman for status and protection now feel exposed. Vulnerable. Because if Heyman is right, then no one, not even Roman's own blood, is safe from his wrath or his reach, and nowhere is that paranoia more deeply felt than in the locker rooms where Solo Sikoa now walks alone. Once regarded as Roman's silent enforcer, Solo has transitioned into a full-blown warlord of SmackDown, declaring himself the new tribal chief in Reigns' absence. But according to insiders, even Solo doesn't fully believe he holds the crown. Because as powerful as Solo is, he wasn't built to rule. He was built to follow. And Roman made sure of that. Heyman, during the interview, hinted at a much deeper psychological grooming process, one that began long before Solo officially joined the Bloodline. Roman picked him early, Heyman revealed. Watched him from the sidelines. Spoke to him in private. Not about love. About legacy. About dominance. He told Solo things none of us heard. Things like, "You are the weapon I use when loyalty fails." Those words now haunt everything Solo does. Because while he may have taken the crown, the shadow of the true king still looms. Every time the crowd chants, "We want Roman," it isn't a wish, it's a warning. But Solo is not the only one bracing for the storm. Jey Uso, the emotional heart of the original Bloodline saga, has re-emerged as a wildcard. After months of silence, rumors are swirling that Jey has been approached by Heyman, and not as a manager, but as a confidant. The very man who once demanded Jey bend the knee may now be asking him to help finish what Roman started. Or end it entirely. Heyman was cryptic when asked about Jey. He knows the truth now, he said. He knows what was taken from him. His family. His soul. His crown. And if Jey returns to SmackDown to confront Roman, it won't be as a pawn. It'll be as a storm. Meanwhile, Seth Rollins has been watching from the sidelines, smirking. For months, Rollins has painted himself as the anti-Roman, the man unafraid to call out the hypocrisy and manipulation at the heart of the Bloodline. And now, with Paul Heyman breaking free and joining his cause, Rollins sees himself not just as the future of WWE, but the reckoning Roman Reigns never saw coming. Rollins and Heyman make for a strange alliance, oil and fire. But in chaos, they found purpose. Rollins doesn't trust Heyman. And Heyman doesn't care. Because both men want the same thing, to end Roman Reigns. There's no redemption arc, Rollins said in a recent backstage interview. There's no second coming. Roman doesn't get to fall from grace and rise again. This time, we bury the myth. That line sparked controversy, but also clarity. This is no longer about family. No longer about titles. This is about legacy. About whose story WWE will tell for the next decade. Roman's. Or everyone else's, because for years, Roman Reigns controlled the narrative. He decided who rose, who fell, who got main event slots, who got buried in the dirt. Now, those same voices he silenced, Jay, Heyman, Rollins, even Jimmy, are rising in unison. And the message is clear. Roman Reigns is no longer welcome at the table he once ruled, but what if he never intended to sit at that table again? Heyman hinted at this possibility too. Roman always said, when they beg for me, that's when I return. But the thing is, he doesn't want to be begged. He wants to be feared. And when fear returns, he will be its face. And therein lies the final, terrifying truth. Roman Reigns may not return as a tribal chief. He may return as a tyrant. The man with no loyalty. No bloodline. No family, just fury. Heyman's revelations have opened a door WWE may not be able to close. In the weeks since the interview aired, locker room alliances have shifted. Superstars are choosing sides. Some remain loyal to Roman, fearing what will happen if they betray him. Others see this as a chance to finally dethrone a man who ruled WWE like a dictator in gold. And then there are those, like Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre, and LA Knight, who have remained silent. Observing. Waiting. Because if Roman returns with vengeance in his veins, the entire company will become a battlefield. And what of Jimmy Uso? The brother caught in between. The man who turned on Roman, then turned on Jay, then tried to stand with Solo. Now, in the wake of Heyman's interview, Jimmy has gone dark. No interviews. No appearances. No statements. According to reports, Jimmy is the most unstable element in this war. Unpredictable. Angry. And possibly the key to Roman's final play. Because if Roman is to rise again, he'll need someone still emotionally connected to both sides. Someone who knows how to make the others suffer. And Jimmy? Jimmy has suffered the most. Paul Heyman knows this. And that's why he closed his interview with one last chilling prophecy. They think he's gone. That he's beaten. That he's watching from some island. But Roman Reigns doesn't vanish. He reloads. And when he walks through that curtain again, when the lights go black and the music hits, it won't be a return. It'll be an execution. Fade to black. The air inside WWE has never been thicker with tension. Every episode of Raw and SmackDown feels like the silence before a thunderclap, unnerving, unpredictable, and inevitable. The question is no longer if Roman Reigns will return, but when, and what form that return will take. SummerSlam looms on the calendar like a prophecy, not an event. It's no longer being marketed as a premium live show. It's being whispered about in hallways as a collision course. A reckoning. A coronation. Or a crucifixion. And at the center of it all, unseen but omnipresent, is Roman Reigns. Solo Sikoa has claimed the mantle of tribal chief. He wears the lei. He has the support of what's left of the bloodline. And yet, for all his strength, Solo doesn't rule, he reacts. The throne he's sitting on was built by another man, and everyone knows it. That's why SummerSlam isn't just a match. It's a challenge to legacy. A confrontation between the crown wearer and the crown forger. In recent weeks, vignettes have started appearing on WWE programming. Glitches. Grainy footage. Quick flashes of a silhouette cloaked in black, standing before a shattered table. A voice, distorted, almost familiar, speaks just one line: "Your blood built this, but your betrayal will bury it." The crowd roars every time. And every time, commentary falls silent. WWE won't say his name. They don't have to. Everyone knows who's coming. Roman Reigns is returning. The stage is being set. Paul Heyman, now fully aligned with Seth Rollins, continues to drop cryptic warnings on Monday Night Raw. "This isn't about championships anymore," he said during a sit-down with Kathy Kelly. "This is about retribution. This is about karma, wrapped in muscle and vengeance, descending upon those who thought they could rewrite history without its author." Meanwhile, Jey Uso has resurfaced in the build to SummerSlam, not as a faction member, not as a tag team specialist, but as a man with unfinished business. He interrupted Solo's segment last week, staring down his younger cousin without saying a word. No mic. No speech. Just silence, pain, and decades of shared betrayal pulsing in the space between them. Solo looked shaken. For the first time since seizing control, he faltered. The very next week, Jey sat alone backstage in a dimly lit locker room, speaking quietly into the camera. "I left 'cause I couldn't breathe," he said. "Now I'm back 'cause I can't sleep." Then he lifted something from his pocket. A necklace. Black and red. The remnants of the lei Roman once gave him. "I kept this. Not 'cause I believed in Roman. But 'cause I believed in us. The family. The bloodline. But now I see the truth. Roman never gave us power. He gave us poison." And just like that, Jey inserted himself into the main event narrative of SummerSlam, not as Roman's soldier, not as Solo's backup, but as a man who might have to destroy both of them to finally heal. But the biggest shock came when the WWE camera cut backstage during the final segment of SmackDown. Paul Heyman was seen opening a sealed FedEx package, expression unreadable. Inside, buried beneath layers of cloth and steel, was a single object, Roman Reigns' golden glove. Heyman held it like it was radioactive. The camera zoomed in slowly. The crowd held its breath. On the palm of the glove, in Roman's unmistakable handwriting, was a single phrase, scrawled in blood-red ink: "I never left." Social media exploded. WWE's YouTube channel hit a record-breaking 20 million views in under 24 hours. Fans knew what this meant. Roman Reigns wasn't returning to reclaim his throne. He was returning to destroy the kingdom that dared to stand without him. And so the stage is now set.at SummerSlam. Solo Sikoa will defend his self-appointed title as the new tribal chief. He will stand in the ring, lei around his neck, flanked by the remnants of a shattered dynasty. Jey Uso may interfere. Paul Heyman may align. And then, the lights may go black, the screen may pulse, and Roman Reigns may emerge, not in full tribal regalia, but in black. No music. No pyro. No theatrics. Just rage. Just retribution. Heyman predicted it best. "He won't walk down the ramp to applause," he said. "He'll rise through the smoke like a ghost come to haunt the living. And when he steps in that ring, everything that came before, titles, betrayals, alliances, will vanish. Because Roman Reigns isn't coming to talk. He's coming to end the story." Every camera, every microphone, every set of eyes in the arena will be locked on that moment. Because Roman Reigns returning at SummerSlam will not just be the climax of a years-long saga, it will be the beginning of its final act. Solo Sikoa will have to answer for the throne he stole. Jey Uso will have to answer for the family he tried to fix. Paul Heyman will have to answer for the secrets he exposed. And Roman Reigns, he'll answer to no one. The night of SummerSlam arrives like a storm that's been threatening for months. The stadium is electric. Thousands of fans chant, scream, hold up signs. Some read "Believe in the bloodline," others "Solo is chief now," and a few chilling ones whisper, "He never left." The commentary team is solemn. They know this isn't just a match. It's the implosion of the greatest dynasty WWE has seen in over a decade. The main event is set. Solo Sikoa walks to the ring with no smile, no music blaring with tribal fire, just silence and determination. The Samoan spike has become his identity. The lei around his neck doesn't hang proudly. It clings like a weight. The moment he steps into the ring, you can almost feel it. He knows what's coming. He holds the mic, and for the first time in months, he speaks with conviction. "I didn't steal nothing. I earned this. When Roman left, he left a hole. I filled it. I kept this family alive. If anyone got a problem with that, then walk through that curtain now." A long pause. The crowd buzzes like static electricity in the air, and then, blackout, the arena is plunged into darkness. A heartbeat echoes through the speakers. Not music. Not a theme. A deep, slow pulse. The screen flickers. Static. Smoke. Then, a shadow steps through. A lone spotlight descends. Roman Reigns. No vest. No tribal gear. No crown, just black boots. Black gloves. Black hoodie. His face is unreadable. He walks slowly, not to the ring, but around it. Circling Solo like a predator measuring his prey. He doesn't speak. He doesn't blink. He just climbs the steps, enters the ring, and stands eye to eye with the man who dared to sit at his table. The crowd erupts. Holy SHT. Holy SHT, chants thunder across the stadium. Solo doesn't flinch. Roman doesn't smirk. They just stand there, until, super kick from behind Jey Uso. He hits Solo hard, sending him stumbling. Roman doesn't move. Jey charges Solo with fury. The two begin trading blows in a chaotic brawl, Samoan spike attempts, counters, fists flying, and Roman just watches. Commentary is losing their minds. What is Roman doing? Why isn't he helping? Whose side is he on?